Before we start, I just wanted to continue to send our support and love and prayers to everyone that is affected by the pandemic going around the world right now. We're lucky and excited to be starting our season again, but it's important that we continue to look to help each other during these times. Excited to get to these interviews on Zoom again, and really hope you guys all had a nice last holiday and a good Thanksgiving before we get into the grind again. So let's get this started.
All right, James here.
Hey, Luke, good to see you. I guess the question is, last year you really had an abbreviated training camp with the trip to India and everything else, and it really did kind of mess with the flow of the team early in the season. How do you avoid that this year, especially with all of the protocols and all this stuff? And how do you have a huge influx of new players? How do you get everybody ready and on the same page?
Yeah, James, it's a good question. And we learned from that last year, and we learned from that experience. And I think what's important to take from it is we're all about building and getting this team to playing to a certain level on a consistent night. And for us, it's about what we look like as the season goes on and how do we get there. And that's building those habits that we talk about all the time. And, one of the things we learned from last season was, all right, maybe we don't put in everything right away, or at least try to get everything in right away, and even simplify it even more going into the start of this season with the short training camp and with the restrictions that are put into place. So, there's some things that we need to really lock in and focus on, but we also know that we're looking long term as far as how we progress into the start of the season and what we want to look like at the end of the season. I thought we did a pretty good job of that last year. So we'll continue to have that type of mindset.
Luke, I know you haven't had a lot of time to get on the floor with these guys yet, but is there anything that stands out from either your team that's coming back or some of the new guys that you just maybe are slightly surprised by?
It's tough, James. I've had no time on the floor with these guys. So, right now is the first day they're allowed to be on the floor. And even with that, it's one coach, one player, no more than 4 in the gym at a time. So I'll get reports back from my coaches that are working with each guy today. But even today, James, is more about guys are taking their physicals. Guys are going to do conditioning tests so we can get a baseline on where everybody is, both on the court and in the weight room. And we're going to kind of get after the basketball stuff more tomorrow from a 1-on-0 standpoint. But I can't answer that question besides that because I haven't seen the guys yet.
Sean Cunningham.
Hey, Luke, good to see you. Yesterday, Monty was kind of talking about some of the additions to the system that Rex Kalamian and Alvin Gentry that they're kind of making. Can you kind of talk about that from a standpoint of, is it dramatic changes? Is it subtle changes? Just kind of what kind of things you anticipate from?
Yeah, and it's not dramatic. We lost 2 very good coaches in Igor and Bob, and we were able to go out there and find 2 guys that we feel very confident about as far as being able to help build what we're building here. And I spent a lot of time talking to both of them this off season and what I want to see and what our strengths are and what their views are and kind of building out what this team is going to look like. And we're very happy and excited about what they're going to be able to bring to our staff and to our team. Both have a ton of experience. Both have great relationships with players. Both bring great energy to the group. And, you won't see, huge changes, but there's definitely some philosophy moves that are going to be a little different this year than last season.
Cool. And then just with Marvin, obviously he had a real big setback last year. I don't know if you've had a chance to see him yet or what your engagement with him was, but just your confidence that he'd be ready for preseason, start of the season, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, Marvin proved. I mean, it's unfortunate we only had him for 12 games last year because he's a very talented, exciting young player. But one of the things I told him that I was most proud about with him and what I'm excited about is he had some really tough breaks these past 2 seasons, and every time he does, he works extremely hard to get back. His mindset is in a really good place right now, and we're thrilled to see what we have with him this season. And yes, I believe he will be ready to go come start of the season.
Tim Reeves, AP.
Hi, Luke. Good to see you. The contract that De'Aaron just got, and a lot of kids from that class of 2017, Bam, Donovan, Jason Tatum, they're all in this position now where they've got these massive deals, and that they tend to come with a bit of pressure, a bit of expectation. Do you have to talk to De'Aaron about just be you, just play your game, don't feel as though you have to play to a certain level because of the contract? Do you have to have that conversation with him at all, I wonder?
We haven't, but De'Aaron spent most of the summer here training and working with the strength coaches and some of my assistants, and he knows what it is. He's a very intelligent young man. And you're right, there is extra pressure and responsibility that come with that type of contract. And the key is to embrace that and to want that. And that's why, certain players get paid those type of contracts. So, we don't want him forcing things due to that added pressure, but we do want him owning that responsibility and owning the idea of this team is moving forward, and how quickly we get there. A big part of that is with him, and I say that because I'm confident that he can handle that, and I'm confident that he can help get us there.
Jason Jones.
Hey, Luke, how you doing? Yeah, the first thing, coming into a season with a new GM, new new vision upstairs, what's been the transition like with you and Monty? I know you've been through this before, but what's it been like this time around, and what has that relationship been like to this point?
Yeah, it's been good, and it's hard, obviously, because I had such a great relationship with Lade and Peja, and that transition is always it's got its challenges, but Monty's been very easy to work with. He's very easy to talk to. He's clear on what he sees and what his plan is, and he's very open to hearing my thoughts and my views on where we're at and what direction we need and what additions we need. So it's the working relationship has been very good so far, and I'm very excited to continue to work with him.
And he talked yesterday about giving you the pieces you need and then kind of letting you go. I know your boy RJ had a little something to say about what the way your roster looks, but how do you feel about the additions, and do you foresee yourself doing a lot of things differently with some of the new parts? Or
we'll do some things differently. We're very excited about some of these players that we have, and part of it, Jason, is we got to see what we have. Normally you go into a season, you have all of September where guys are back playing pickup. We have three rookies that we drafted that I'm excited to see, but these rookies normally get a summer league and then they get a few months to adjust. They're going straight from getting drafted to the start of the season. So we got to kind of go into it knowing that we got to be patient. But as far as the excitement level of who we drafted, the type of players, the type of people we drafted, very excited. You know, tough, athletic, play both ends of the floor, and versatile. So we're excited about those pieces. You know, we'll of course miss Bogey. He's a great player, a great teammate, but that's part of the NBA. So we got to keep moving forward, and we're excited about doing that with the pieces we have.
Marshall Harris.
Hey, Luke, good to see you back to work. When you look at this offseason, so much has happened, and obviously the beginning of this season somewhat different from last season. Last time we heard from Buddy Hield, he wasn't necessarily happy with his role coming off the bench. Have you had much communication with him, and with Bogey gone, as you just mentioned? Do you foresee him going right back into the starting lineup, or is that something you'll have to look at? How are you looking at that situation?
Yeah, you know, we got a lot of new faces here, so we have to continue to look at what's going to be best for our team. And you know, even last season, Buddy started more than half the season, and when he didn't start, he played a huge role for us coming in off the bench and being a dynamic 20-point a night scorer. So every decision I make is always based on what I feel is best for the group and best for the team. And with this training camp, this is part of what we have to see. What do we have? What groups are playing well together? Who complements who? And at the end of the day, every decision that gets made will, again, come down to what do I feel as the head coach is best for this team, giving us the best chance of winning.
Have you talked to him during the offseason or even recently, and what's your relationship with him right now?
Yeah, you know, that's not going to get into the in-house stuff of who I've talked to and this and that with some of that, but Buddy is a very talented player. I've always had a good relationship with him, and you know, we're excited that he's part of the group.
Carmichael Dale.
Hey, Coach. A couple questions. Let me first start with a procedural. A lot of challenges right now in these times. You guys were in a bubble last year. It was very different. Yeah. No bubble this year, but there are of course procedures and precautions. Do you plan on taking an active sort of coaching role in making sure everybody understands their personal responsibility, or do you stay out of that? Is that going to fall more to the support staff when it comes to something like that?
No, I'm definitely actively involved in that, and you know, we're going to continue to get the protocol will continue to change, and we'll continue to get information from the NBA as far as what their rules are going to be for the travel and for the players. It is much more challenging this year without being in the bubble. We've done what I call visual learning sessions on the computer for the last 2 days with the players. And I've started and ended each session both days with the same theme, which is our responsibility is to take care of ourselves health-wise, which also takes care of our teammates health-wise, and then to get in the gym and get better every day. And that basic message is something we're going to continue to preach to our players, because it is more than just if we do something that's not smart, we're not just affecting ourselves. In the locker room environment that we have and how close we play together, and we're in the same rooms, you know, with the pandemic, I mean, one bad decision could knock out half a team for 10 to 14 days. And that's just something we have to be aware of, and we have to be willing to make that sacrifice for ourselves and for our teammates.
And lastly, I know it's way too early to talk lineups, but just on the chessboard, bringing in Hassan Whiteside gives you a little bit of a different look defensively, led the league in blocks last year. And I'm curious if you've given any thought to when you're juggling lineups, him making it perhaps easier for you to try out, you know, maybe something with Fox, Buddy, Tyrese going small and covering up some of those size deficiencies. Have you taken kind of a preliminary look at that and what he brings as far as lineups?
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things Monty and I were talking about is how much different our team looked like last year once we added an Alex Lynn to the group. Somebody that can really just sit in that paint and protect it for us. And it's a great point that you bring up. It does allow you to take to take different lineups in smaller lineups and maybe more, maybe players that, you normally wouldn't play together when you have a big fella down there to clean a lot of that up. So yes, we are looking at that. We're up there. I'm up there having individual meetings with, different coaches as far as what kind of lineups we want to have going into camp, and that's one of the ones that's on the menu that we're interested in seeing. Yes.
Dave McMiniman.
Hey, Luke. Good to see you. First of all, do you think the offseason moves in your backcourt will mean for Buddy Hield coming into this year? Saying goodbye to Bogey and bringing in Halliburton.
We're going to miss Bogey for sure. He's a big part of what we were doing. But that's, like I said, that's part of the NBA, and he got a great contract. So, we'll miss him, but we're happy for him. It means more opportunity for everyone, Dave, because Bogey played a lot of minutes for us. He was, had finished the season as in the starting group. But it means more opportunity for the guys that are here. So it's part of the fun of training camp is seeing guys battle and guys compete. And we'll see how it all plays out.
Appreciate it.
Jason Anderson.
Hey, Luke, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. You mentioned earlier with regards to Rex and Gentry, some subtle philosophy changes. What's most notable among those? What will we notice is different?
Well, one of the keys this year is really looking. We're going to play a little more 5-out style in the flow of our offense. There's little things that's we're gonna have a little more commitment from day one. Now that we have a somewhat of a foundation set from last season on how quickly we want to get the ball up court. Defensively, some of the rotations will be different, but to answer your question, you're going to have to really lock in and look at the little details to see any major changes.
Okay. And to follow up on a question earlier about this being, such a unique build-up to the season, what have you guys decided in terms of how to handle the rookies and maybe an emphasis on Halliburton, because I imagine he would be probably among the quickest to be ready to go. But how do you bring them along and make sure that you're doing the right things in terms of their development, given that this is all going to be pretty rushed?
Yeah, you got to stay consistent and stay patient. We know what's important to building habits. We know what's important to winning. We know that these guys are in a tough spot, but they're going to have opportunities, and it's one of those things that, we got to get them out on the court, see how ready they are from a physical standpoint. I mean, this is a grown man's league. So from a physical standpoint to understanding basic NBA philosophies and terminology, they're in a tough spot, but we're going to work them. We're going to push them every day. We feel great about our player development group. And we're going to be positive with them. We're going to continue to make them better. And for now, that's kind of the approach we have. And we'll reevaluate once we actually get to see them play basketball out there on the court in a few days. So until then, that's the message to our developmental coaches.
A few more. G-Man, Gary Gerald.
Coach, I'm curious about all the changes from a year ago, your first training camp with the Kings, and it was mentioned how disjointed it was with the trip to India, et cetera. But now you have basically an entire new front office. You've had significant changes in your coaching staff. You have all of these new faces on your roster. Is there a sense that you're basically having to start all over again?
No, that's we feel confident that we have a pretty solid foundation set with the guys we do have coming back. Now we know we are going to have to take a couple steps back. If you're one of these teams that's returning the same group, you kind of start from where you ended the season last year and keep building. We understand with the people that are going to be playing more this year and so many young players and new faces, we will have to take a couple steps back, but not to the extent of feeling that we have to start the whole thing over again. So we got a lot of work to do, but we're very excited about that opportunity to do that work and get on the court with these guys.
Thank you.
All right, a few more. Logan Murdoch, the Ringer.
Hey, Luke, you guys haven't played since August, so that's like a 4-month layoff since you guys played. And I know there's other teams like a Miami or a Los Angeles Lakers that have a bit of a quicker turnaround. Do you think there's any advantage in the fact that you guys have had a longer offseason than some teams that were deep in the playoffs?
Well, there's pros and cons with all of it. Most of the teams that went pretty deep in the playoffs, they kind of fall into that category of which I was just speaking of, where they're going to return a lot of their players. So they don't really need, the same amount of time to put offensive stuff in and defensive stuff. And most of those teams are pretty darn talented already. Now where it is a con for them is that they, normally you win a championship or you go a deep run, you have a few months to unwind and get your mind wrapped around it. They don't have that luxury. But it's one of those things that it's, so depending what side of that coin you're looking at, there's some good and some bad. And then there's other teams that didn't even go to the bubble that haven't played in almost 9 months. And that's a whole nother equation as far as the pros and cons are concerned.
Mark Jones.
Hey, Luke, what's good, man?
Mark.
Look forward to seeing you guys run.
Yeah.
Hey, I just heard you talk earlier about De'Aaron and living up to the commitment that the franchise has made to him, and he's certainly been up to the challenge in the last couple of years, making segmented improvement from year to year. In what you talk about playing like this here, you mentioned like 5 out, spread 5. What kind of areas would you like to see that next kind of incremental leap in with him? Where would that come?
Well, for De'Aaron, I think the biggest jump for him will come when he consistently is making that 3-point shot and getting to the foul line. And I feel like, unfortunately, he was one of the guys that also got hurt last season and missed an important window in the middle of the season. But as he found his rhythm again, he started getting to the foul line much more. He started knocking down his 3-point shot at a much higher rate. And I think you saw how that directly affected our team and how we were playing and how we were, the amount of games we were winning and whatnot. So I feel like the obvious, clear next step for him is the idea of knocking down that 3-point shot at a consistent rate and continuing to improve upon the amount of times he's going to the foul line each game, which he's elite at because of his gifts and his quickness. It's tough to defend him without fouling him, and unless you're just going to let him shoot, and that's something he's been working on all summer.
Thanks, Coach.
Matt George.
Coach, with the changes to this schedule, 72-game schedule in less than 140 days, Monte McNair said he really prioritized adding depth to this roster this year to manage those changes. Have you begun to kind of think about and expect how different rotations are going to look like with COVID or any of the changes or differences with this season?
Yeah, we signed some nice pieces in the last last week or so. Guys that have played in the league, vets, and the main message is really going to be, guys, like it's such a crazy time out there right now that we more so than any other year, we need everybody ready. You know, whether you're in the rotation right now or not. There's pretty much a guarantee that we're going to need you this season. So just keeping everybody engaged and the strength coaches keeping everyone in shape for when those times come, our players are ready to perform and understand what we're trying to accomplish out there on the court.
All right, last one, Tony Harvey.
Yeah, Coach Walton. You spoke about it earlier in your interview. You talked about philosophy moves, and after the draft, Monty did express his gratitude to have more ball handlers on the court, and it is pretty much the way the league has been going. If you look at the Golden State Warriors, how they let Draymond Green bring the ball up, of course, the Houston Rockets. And, with the Westbrooks and the Harden and Eric Gordon bringing the ball up sometimes. Where do you see the Kings at? I know you have to see what you got, when training camp starts, but how do you see the Kings trying to implement more ball handling amongst the players? I know you also mentioned about the 5 up and 5 out. So could you kind of talk about that?
Well, yeah, I think in the game of basketball, the more playmakers, good decision makers you have on the court, the better for your team. And we feel like with Tyrese, we got another an excellent player that can do that. We have Corey Joe. So look, we're gonna try to get guys out there that it's not just Fox pounding the ball the entire game, but that we're attacking other teams as a team, and we have multiple guys that can make those plays and whatnot. And I thought we did a nice job of adding to that this offseason.